Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily. I'm your host, Ray Flowers. How you doing this morning? It's Friday, Monday through Friday here. We've got the show 11 o'clock Eastern Time on youtube.com/Elite Plus Network. We also then store the show, the podcast, if you will, on Pandora. It's on Apple iTunes. Check your various podcast sources. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily. You can find it there. We also have it on the website at, go to the top of the page, Elite Plus. Click on that. Find Fantasy Sports Daily. You can find a listing of the previous shows. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. You're aware of that. Welcome to the show today. You can find my work at the website. You can find me on the Interverse, Twitterverse. What's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes I have problems here. I record this at 8 in the morning Pacific time, and I will admit I'm better talking in the evening. So there's always that we run into. But basically, type in at the Ray Flowers, and you can find me. I'm on Stitcher. I'm on Twitter X. I'm on Instagram. Just try at the Ray Flowers. I even have a TikTok account that I never use. But at the Ray Flowers is the spot for all that personally. And what we're going to do today, and I'll dive into kind of everything here in a second. What we're going to do today is we're going to do what we did yesterday, except on the pitching side. If you missed it yesterday, find episode 98. This is episode 99, as you can see on the screen. We're going to talk about the top 50 pitchers in fantasy baseball, according to ADP at the NFBC for the month of March. I have no notes. I'm just looking at the webpage, the NFBC. We're just going to go through the list. And I don't know what I'm going to say. Again, no notes. We're just going to let it fly. Yesterday were all the hitters, so if you missed that show, you can watch it on demand. Today, it's all the pitchers. We're also, as you're seeing there, going to continue our look around the diamond. Let me make a note about that for the show, because I got to make graphics for that. We're going to do the Seattle Mariners. We basically get to rounding out all the teams and talking about 5 players on each team. So we'll do that today as well after I blast through the pitchers. Don't forget to go to fantasyguru.com. They can see it there. Use the promo code FSD20. Someone asked me this morning, hey, Ray, the promo code I have doesn't work. Use promo code FSD20. Don't use all the other stuff. I don't know if any of the other stuff's even active. Promo code FSD20 gets you a discount on the product at fantasyguru.com. Let me click on this as we're, or you can also go to the website, click on the Join Now tab, again on the top right. You can do that. You can also see the link there and all of that. I'm checking to see if they've adjusted the early bird pricing, which they've told me they have. They have it. So you can use the promo code FSD20. It still costs you $40 to get it through the entirety of the regular season. All the articles, the Discord access, all of it, the rankings updates every month for $40 using the promo code FSD20. You can also get the All-In package, which you see on the screen there. The All-In package is hockey, basketball, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, golf, and I think college basketball up into the tournament. All of that for one low price. And if you use the promo code FSD20 on that, I think it works. So give that a shot. All of those sports, all the DFS, all the wagering for all of them for one price. It's a great way to get involved. I mean, come on, as Jeff Mann says all the time, you should be able to make back the $75 with all the advice on all those sports. We've also got the NFL package, $19.99. That's the franchise mode. That gets you the ability to review everything that we've written. That gets you the coverage of all the free agency, and there's crazy free agency, the Keenan Allen to the Bears that just never stops in the NFL. So you get all that analysis as part of the package. You get all the player profiles as well. I know I saw Caleb Williams is up, Brock Bowers is up. You get access to all of that too. And then finally, there is our March Madness guide that is available. March Madness starting later this year than normal. Get involved there as well. They can see it on the screen. I think it's $19.99. I think what it is for the bracketologist, for basically the crew led by Ted Schuster. Their look there. You can find me here every day, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern. SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We have 2 shows. Elite Sports with Jeff Manns, 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. I'm on Wednesdays. And then Elite Sports Game Time, Monday through Thursday with Justin Festerman. That show is from 8 to 10 Eastern. So lots of ways to get involved, lots of ways to be part of the team, lots of ways to basically become a member at fantasyguru.com. Hopefully you enjoyed this free show. One last thing before we dive in. I recorded what I anticipate being probably my last podcast for a while. Ray, we love your podcast. Thank you. You don't need the podcast because I'm here every day. So instead of getting a weekly baseball podcast, you're going to get me 5 days a week talking baseball here on Fantasy Sports Daily. So there is because of the fact I did the top 50 hitters yesterday and I'm doing the top 50 pitchers today, I wanted to record a podcast, which I did last night or late afternoon. I want to do a podcast talking about the trade with the Padres and the White Sox, talking about the Garrett Cole situation, Gavin Williams, kind of a little bit of a rundown of the news. If you didn't, if you wanted my take on that, we haven't been doing it on the show because of the direction of the show. So you can find that on the podcast. It'll be up at fantasyguru.com. That one won't be free because, again, that's part of the package. Again, use that promo code FSD20, but Fantasy Sports Daily will be free. So if I could kindly ask you, if you enjoy what you're hearing here, seeing here, listening, viewing, all that kind of stuff, tell a friend because this is a free source, and we're hoping that people will see what we do here and decide to join the largest active community in fantasy sports at fantasyguru.com. Okay, so what are we doing today? We're talking the Mariners team review. We'll do that at the end. Just like yesterday when I did the hitters, we're doing the pitchers today. We're in the NFBC for the month of March. So all the drafts in the month of March, we're up to over 140 of them as I record this. We're going to do the ADP, and it's all the pitchers. NFBC doesn't break them down, relief pitcher and starter pitcher, so it's just pitchers. So there'll be a mixture of names here that we discuss. Again, hands-free, no notes. I'm not looking at anything. All I'm looking at is the player profile if I click them open. That's it. So, and again, I haven't laid anything out. We're just reacting and going here. So something we've done year after year. People enjoy it. So let's get after it right now. Again, 50-1, NFBC's ADP, starting from the month of March, or from the date of March 1st to today, 140 drafts. Number 50 is Bailey Ober. Bailey Ober is one of my favorite guys out there. He's a very solid guy. He's pitched really well in this couple seasons in the big leagues. Has been in the breakout pitcher of the year column. Wasn't chosen as that winner, but it was in the column last year. And has lived up to expectations. He showed up throwing a little harder. He's 6'9", and you expect him to be a flamethrower. He's not. But he showed up with a little extra velocity this year, which is great to hear. I think he's a super solid, stable guy that not enough people talk about. He's got the 50th spot here at the NFBC rankings. Tanner Scott's 49. I've said this on the show. I've written it. I've done drafts where I've added Tanner Scott. I think Tanner Scott is one of those guys that at 49 and 133rd overall, according to his ADP, you should be in on. I think if he can hold on to the walk regression that he tossed out last year, he's a 15% walk guy. Last year it was like 7.8%, something like that. If he can maintain that, he's saving 30 games this year. Now that's, of course, if he stays healthy. But I think Tanner Scott's a great target, 49th here in their ADP. Clay Holmes comes in at 48. Interestingly, and I updated the closer grid yesterday at fantasyguru.com, so go check that out. The Yankees have basically said that Jonathan Loaiziga is going to be a bulk reliever to start the year. He's going to throw multiple innings and then pitch every other day kind of thing. They're not really utilizing him as a proper setup man. That makes it very difficult to know what direction the Yankees would go in. Would they make Loaiziga the closer? Would they keep him in that role if something happened to Clay Holmes? Clay Holmes gets strikeouts. Clay Holmes gets a tremendous amount of ground balls. Clay Holmes is a very solid guy. Worry a little bit about his health. And maybe that's just me. I think it's reasonable to take him where he's being selected, but I'm a Tanner Scott guy. Ryan Helsley comes in at 47 with a nice little pitcher run here in the bullpen. Helsley's got 100-mile-an-hour stuff. Last year was solid, but not up to expectations. Giovanni Gallegos didn't pitch as well last year as he has in years past. But Gallegos is always floating around getting 10, 12, 14 saves, right? And so there is some concern with Helsley, even with this stuff and with the expectations of the Cardinals. Is he going to be able to rack up 35 saves with, Gallegos basically sniping saves here and there? I like Helsley. If I had him on my team, I'd be very happy with it. But there is some concern about the upper end because of that Gallegos factor. I'm going to take a couple sips today. Yesterday, I realized I went through this whole thing and never took a sip of water. Tanner Bybee comes in at 46. Love Tanner Bybee. Was all in on Tanner Bybee when he was called up last year. Told a lot of people to do the same thing. We had a great return on that. He pitched really well. And he's kind of like Bailey Ober in the sense that, and again, ADP is very similar. Young guy, pitching very well. Is this guy, Tanner Bybee, going to strike out 12 guys per 9 innings? No. Is he going to have a 2.5 ERA? No. Is he going to be damn good? I think so. Tanner Bybee is someone I'm totally comfortable with at that ADP cost. Chris Sale, someone that you're totally uncomfortable with at that cost. He's at 45. Chris Sale showed up in camp. And please stop. I'll just say this. Stop body shaming people. we get smashed socially if we body shame women, but we can body shame men all the time. People tell me all the time, eat a sandwich and stuff like that. It's like, come on, let's all be better. Chris Sale weighs 9 pounds. Okay, he's built like me. It's just how it is. The reason his arm breaks isn't because of the way, he doesn't have an extra 30 pounds of his gut. That's just how it is. Back to the skills. He showed up. He's with the Braves. He showed up looking great. Velocity's there. Your guess is as good as mine with Chris Sale. Is he going to throw 80 innings? Is it going to be 150 innings? No one knows. I don't think Chris Sale knows. Let's be honest about that. If you want to take that chance, have at it. I would love the idea of taking Chris Sale and also getting a Tanner Bybee, Bailey over type. Give me that stability while I take a swing on the upside with Chris Sale. Pete Fairbanks is number 44. Love Fairbanks' skill set. It's fantastic. I don't trust him to stay healthy. You shouldn't trust him to stay healthy. I've talked about this previously. If you're going to take Pete Fairbanks, you better be taking Jason Adam. You really should do that. Jason Adam is his ADP. I don't know. It's almost 400. Like, no one drafts him. Take him. Do the piggyback. Do the handcuff reliever thing. Give yourself the 30 saves from the Rays, and whether it comes from one guy or two, you'll get your 30 saves. Love Fairbanks. Really hard to trust him. Dylan Cease obviously is part of the Padres. He'll be in that podcast that'll be posted here right after the show. He's number 43. He's moved up a little bit in the rankings, and as I said, a preview to the podcast, the stuff is there. The innings will be there. The strikeouts will be there. The defense is better in San Diego. The environment is better in San Diego, and the ballpark is better in San Diego. So a little bit of an uptick for Dylan Cease. Evan Phillips at 42. There's always some concern, and there's been rumors. Maybe Kenley Jansen comes back to the Dodgers, or maybe the Dodgers make a move to add somebody. But Evan Phillips was great last year on a per inning basis. Like, where's the quibble with how he performed? Is he going to save 35 games? Well, the Dodgers seem to use every pitcher 80%. It's like every starter makes 24 starts, and maybe that Phillips, will throw 52 innings this year instead of 72 innings. We'll see. But who doesn't love Evan Phillips and the performance he showed last year? He's coming in at 42. Paul Sewald at 41. Sewald is less dynamic. He's less exciting than the other relievers I've mentioned. He's more in the low 90s, and he's a veteran, and still pretty good. I mean, he got out of the shadow of Seattle, went to Arizona. In the end, saved 34 games. I mean, maybe he only gets 25 saves this year, and again, he's not the dominator that some of these other guys are. But if there is a stable, under-the-radar closer, and that's a loaded sentence, if there is, Paul Sewald is probably that guy. Number 40 is Joe Musgrove. Musgrove is really good, and he's been really good for years now. The question with him is health. It started to leak in a little bit. He's had some problems going deeper into seasons, not necessarily into games, but just extending out the pitch count, extending out the innings total. He is very stable. Maybe the strikeouts aren't what they once were, and that dings him a little bit too. But this is the lowest price we've seen Musgrove in a few years on draft day, and at 40th overall. I mean, you're feeling pretty good about that. David Bednar comes in at 39. Bednar's been a little beat up physically here in camp. There was a lot of concerns, including in my corner last year, that he would start off well, do a good job in the ninth inning, get traded into a setup role. Never happened. The Pirates kept him all year long. There's always the possibility that happens again, that he gets traded at some point and goes to a setup role. There's a little bit of trepidation again because of his health. There's also a little trepidation because everything was perfect last year for Bednar, and it's not going to be perfect again. That's not how the game works. But, if he's healthy, 39th at pitcher, okay. Justin Steele, 38, breakout pitcher of the year, if you didn't know it. He was breakout pitcher of the year last year. The breakout pitcher of the year column is up right now at fantasyguru.com. So hopefully we'll have 85% of the success we had last year. I mean, Steele was a top 5 Cy Young getter. So, I'm not hoping that our guy this year does that well, but let's give 85% of that. Yay. Hope. That'll be a win. Steele throws 2 pitches, basically. He's a confounding guy because of the movement on his pitches. And it's interesting. I find myself in the zone of last year I was all in, and this year I'm kind of saying, well, the price is getting a little steep, which is weird because I still obviously like him, and he did everything last year that I anticipated. And then some, he was even better than I hoped for. But I'm in that zone of let's pull back a little bit and not expect a full repeat of the ratios with him in 2024. Andres Munoz at 37. Munoz has got as much arm talent as basically any reliever in baseball. And he's been groomed to be the ninth inning guy for years. He's been injured for years. He's in that he's in that Chris Sale zone for a reliever. If Munoz, throws 65 innings this year, he's going to get you 100 strikeouts and save 35 games. That's probably what happens, right? Paul Sewald's gone. The job is his. Matt Brash isn't at 100% to start the year for the Mariners. But is Munoz going to has he legitimately got a chance to throw 65 games? I just don't know. So dynamic arm, and certainly could be part of a winning pitching staff this year, but you got to build in someone else around him. You can't have the theory of I've got him and I'm set. If you're not doing the strategy that I've been talking about this year, which is getting one guy, trying to finish middle of the pack and saves. If you're not doing that strategy, you need multiple guys. You're going to need to get 3 guys you can kind of get 20 saves from. Because I'd have to say that Munoz, if I'm just being honest, like I'm hoping for 20 saves. Again, he could get 35. I would not be surprised at all, but I'm hoping for 20 because of his track record of ill health. Joe Ryan at 36. Love Joe Ryan. He was on my recent FSGA team. I think I got him on another team at some point. They're all running together. He was part of the early, middle, late pitching. Which do you take pitching? Do you draft pitching early, the middle rounds, the later rounds? There's a 3-part series on that. He was in those articles as well. Joe Ryan, and I've said this all when I'm on Sirius talking about this and everything. Joe Ryan's throwing 170 innings. He's having 170 strikeouts. That's where we're at as a baseline. Could it be 200 strikeouts? Yeah, it could be. He's working on his pitch mix and all that kind of stuff. I really like Joe Ryan. Really like Joe Ryan. If he's on your team, thumbs up. Alexis Diaz is coming in at 35. Diaz, he's on an up-and-coming team in the Reds. Clearly the lead guy in the bullpen. Clearly had a strong season last year. He has issues with the walk, much like Tanner Scott, really. And people don't look at him in the same vein, but really there's a lot of Tanner Scott and Alexis Diaz. That's the thing with Diaz. If he gets off to a slow start, would the Reds make a change? I don't think they'd want to. And I don't know. The advantage Diaz has had is, as I mentioned on the show previously, all the Reds relievers have been hurt. They always get hurt, always. So Diaz is kind of just the last man standing, and he ended up taking over the 9th inning. Could I see Diaz with 26 saves as easily as I could see him with 36? Kinda. Now, again, this is the nature of the closer market. It's why I talk all the time about playing in Sewald's leagues and all that kind of stuff. Love the arm of Diaz, but he needs to throw strikes. Let's just say it that way. Jesus Luzardo at 34, also on the team. I drafted for the FSGA. I comboed Luzardo and Ryan, if I remember properly. Luzardo had 200 strikeouts last year. He's worked diligently to change up his pitch mix and the shape of his pitches, I guess is a better way to say it, over the last couple of years. Where he is now is where he was always expected to be as part of the A's organization. Took him longer than I anticipated to get there. But now that we feel pretty comfortable with the ability to throw 160-plus innings, you got to like Jesus Luzardo and that strikeout potential. His teammate, Yandy Perez, at 33. Perez is what? The top 5 starting pitching talents in the game. And, I've talked about him a lot, written about him a lot. We spent all of last season discussing this kid. He lived up to every expectation last year. He threw more innings than anticipated last year, which was nice too. He does have an issue right now with his finger. It's a fingernail issue. They're saying he should be ready for opening day. But he's had a couple of starts where it's been an issue, and it's like, it sounds stupid, but, if you throw and you crunch a nail or you tear a nail, it hurts, and you start bleeding, and there's problems. But let's just hope that, we have all these worries about his arm and shoulder and elbow, and it's not going to be a finger that screws us up, is it? Right now, he's coming in at 33. Zack Eflin's at 32. Zack Eflin has been my guy. Zack Eflin was the breakout pitcher of the year a couple years ago. He didn't get there. Got there last year. So we had the right guy, just the wrong year. The real concern with Eflin is, can he throw those innings again? He doesn't beat himself with the walk. He gets a strikeout an inning. He's really talented. He's had issues with health, the knee. He's just had a hard time consistently throwing innings. And that's the concern, not to mention the fact that everyone with the Rays gets hurt. Sorry, it's just a fact, kids. Everyone with the Rays gets hurt on the hill. We'll see with Eflin. Love the talent. Can he throw the 180 innings? We don't know. Jordan Romano at 31. Romano gets 30 saves every year. He's pitching for a good team. He's a little bit dicey. Sometimes there's health. Sometimes there's performance. Sometimes he goes 10 days without a save. It's a weird thing they got going on with the Jays, but the reality is he gets 30 saves at the end of the year, and he's done that for years on end now. Cole Ragans is number 30. Player profile on him at fantasyguru.com. I won't talk a lot about him here because I spent 1,500 words talking about him. Go check out the player profile. You can go to the top of the page, go to the base, go to the article, seasonal, baseball, player profiles. Boom, you'll find them all listed there. Devin Williams at 29. Again, I talked about this in detail, this bullpen situation now with the Brewers in the podcast. It'll be posted right after this show is done. So check out the Rays Ramblings podcast at fantasyguru.com. I spent probably 8 minutes talking about the bullpen situation with the Brewers. Devin Williams out reportedly for 3 months with a spine issue. Blake Snell coming in at 28. And, I'll be updating the draft book today. I update the draft book every Friday. Update the rankings every day. So, again, the rankings are more accurate than the draft book. But I'll update that today. And, I'm going to look at the rankings one more time through before doing the update to the draft book. And Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell, it's just, what do you do? I mean, because we're at a point now, like it's the 14th of, what is it, 15th? I don't even know what day it is. Yeah, it's the 15th. The 15th of March. These guys are Montgomery and Snell are going to sign. And what's going to happen? Well, they're going to show up to camp. They're going to say they're in shape. Whether they are or not, I'm sure they're throwing and all that. But teams are going to want to see him throw. They're going to want to have him get in game action, all that. Like, if Blake Snell signs this afternoon, can he even make it to opening day? I got to say no. And when you start, and I talked about this in the podcast that'll be posted at fantasyguru.com with Gavin Williams. I went through his scenario with his elbow. You can check that out when it's posted. And I talked about, losing 2 or 3 starts, But if you're losing 2 or 3 starts, that matters. If Blake Snell loses 3 starts to begin the year, you just lost 26 strikeouts. That's a lot. How many times have you been in the Roto League where at the end of the season, 26 strikeouts would have made you gain a spot or lose a spot? Probably frequently, right? 3 less starts is 1 less victory, let's say. It matters. And then you have to worry about guys like Montgomery and Snell. Are they comfortable where they're at? Do they feel rushed when they join a team? Do they push themselves to be ready when they're really not ready? Because again, instead of getting 5 spring outings, they're not getting that. I don't know the answer to that. And so these guys are I kept thinking this was going to happen. And it's bad for baseball that it hasn't happened. It's bad for the players too. This is a long ramble to say that I'm not comfortable with Blake Snell as a 28th pitcher off the board. I'm just not. Maybe you are. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But I am not comfortable with him as the 28th guy off the board at the pitcher spot. Raisel Iglesias at 27, showing some slight erosion in the skill set. But really, if you're looking for a reliever to get 30 saves, he's got to be one of the handful of guys that you say is there, right? He's for the Braves. He's the guy. I like Raisel Iglesias. Always have since he's made the switch to the bullpen. Bobby Miller's at 26, prognosticating out Bobby Miller making 28 starts this year and throwing 159 innings. If he does that, I'm comfortable with this ADP. He's tremendously talented. He was really good last season. The question is, and Steve Phillips talks about this all the time, the former GM, the plan for the Dodgers is never to have their guys throw 30 starts. Just not. And they've got Dustin May and Clayton Kershaw. They got all these guys coming, right, that are injured right now. Walker Buehler's coming. I don't know if Bobby Miller can make 30 starts. Even if he could, I don't know if they'd let him, is the point. So we're walking a line with Bobby Miller. Like, he really can't have many hiccups because it's hard to envision him throwing 180 innings. And if he's not throwing 180 innings, he's really got to be on it to justify the draft day cost here. I'm okay with the cost. It's getting pricey given that expectation of the workload not being big. Camilo Doval at 25. Camilo Doval, did I talk about him? Oh, I talked to him yesterday. If you missed it, episode 98, we talked about the Giants. I gave a whole rundown of Camilo Doval. And again, you can check that on your favorite podcast source, fantasy, just type in Fantasy Sports Daily. You can find it at YouTube, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. And on the website, fantasyguru.com, just click the Elite Plus tab at the top. Go down to Fantasy Sports Daily, and you can hear that. Episode 98 for my thoughts on Camilo Doval. Logan Gilbert at 24. Love Logan Gilbert. Not too many youngsters come into the league and throw 180 innings in back-to-back years. And that's right. I'm not making that up, am I? Let's pull this open here. Because, again, like I said, I'm not looking at 185 and 190. So I'm not making it up. He threw 185 innings 2 years in a row. Not many guys do that. I know there's a lot of excitement over others in the pitching staff with the Mariners. And frankly, the Mariners 1-5 might be the best in baseball. Logan Gilbert is really good. And I love the fact that every time you read a story on Logan Gilbert, they're talking about his process. They're talking about the fact that he's constantly striving to get better, that he's one of these guys that's always checking out, his pitch velocities and RPMs this and release point that, and what's the right pitch mix for my arm angle. And really like Logan Gilbert. He's a very stable option at 24. Grayson Rodriguez might be slightly more talented. He's at 23. He's not a more stable option. Okay, so this also comes down to how you decide to put a roster together. For me, I'm taking Gilbert over Rodriguez because I want the guy that I've seen throw 180 innings multiple times. at a high level. Grayson Rodriguez looked reborn when he finally went down to the minors last year, retooled things, came back. There it was. Obviously, Rodriguez, the pedigree saying elite, the scouting report saying elite. We'll see if he can take that step this year. At 23rd overall at the pitching spot, which is, again, much higher than we have him at fantasyguru.com, people are assuming he's become the guy. I think he's working his way to becoming the guy. Let's see. Where did I go? 22 is Emanuel Claas. Talked about him a lot. Emanuel Claas' 40 saves each of the last 2 years. Emanuel Claas has also seen his velocity go down a little bit. He had 21 losses and blown saves last year, which is catastrophic. Okay. The strikeout rate vanished. It vanished. He didn't even have 8 strikeouts per 9 last year. It vanished last year. That's concerning. The struggles, the lack of strikeouts, that's concerning. Still got him as a guy, top 5. Let me verify that before I speak out my rear end and someone says, Ray, you don't have my, actually have him as top 5. Got him as the 5th guy at the closer spot right now. Maybe I'm wrong and he, John Franco's his way to 42 saves again. Right? You don't have to strike out 12 guys per 9 innings to get saves. And he's unquestionably the guy in the 9th inning. Trevor Stefan, for those people that missed elbow surgery, so that even removes another impediment, another challenger, if you will, for Claas. Claas is fine, but again, his ADP is 65. I'm not spending a 5th-round pick to take a closer. Just not doing it. Johan Duran is 21. Duran is spectacular on my dynasty team. I've had told the story many times with Duran about how he's developed and my thoughts and everything. Dude throws 101 miles an hour. He's impossible to hit. Struggled in spring. Something to think about because, again, this is not generally spring numbers to me don't mean as much. They're working on things. You don't know who they're facing. Are they facing AA guys? You got to really start digging into the information to find that stuff out. But a closer, if the struggles he has in the preseason here bleed into the first week of the season, and the first few times out there he allows 3 runs and gets a loss, it's the 9th inning. You can't be blowing games. So something to think about. I think it's a blip, and I'm not concerned myself at the moment, but it is something to keep an eye on, especially given the cost people are paying to get Duran on their team. Framber Valdez at 20. Valdez is my guy, right? Get him, put him in, get your double-digit wins, get your 160 strikeouts, get your 180 innings as a baseline, and then it's up from there. Some moments last year where he wasn't quite as good as we anticipated, more struggles than we're kind of used to, but in the end, the numbers were still strong with Framber Valdez. There's no problem with Framber Valdez. He threw 198 innings. He won 12 games. His whip was 113. Mr. Ground Ball will continue to have success this year for the Astros. Max Fried at 19. Love Max Fried. This is an aggressive price point, but I love Max Fried. The question with Fried is health. I can't put him in the Chris Sale zone because he hasn't had the highs despite the tremendous success he's had. And he hasn't had enough time to be Chris Sale, but there's a lot of Chris Sale going on here where whenever Max Fried's out there, he's really good. It's not anywhere near the dominator, but when he's out there, he's really good, but there's hiccups. So I love Max Fried. If I was going to take Max Fried, I want Max Fried to be my SP2. If he's my SP1, which is almost where the ADP is suggesting, right? If he is, you better get an SP2 that you can really trust. You need that Joe Ryan backup to him. And in fact, if you want to do Max Fried and Joe Ryan as a combination, and ADP says that's totally doable, something like that really sounds good to me. I want some redundancy built in with Max Fried, but I really like Max Fried and the skill set he brings. Aaron Nola at 18. Aaron Nola is valuable for the durability piece. Aaron Nola, again, 180 and 180 is coming. Does every year. In fact, it's often 200 and 200, right? Innings and strikeouts. It's coming. The ratios, the ERA is kind of volatile. The home runs bite him from time to time. The whip is good. He doesn't beat himself much with the walk. And then we saw this with Garrett Cole. There's always the concern with, and I said this the other day with Cole, you're the guy until you're not the guy. Well, Aaron Nola's the guy. He's the guy for 180 innings, 180 strikeouts. He's the guy until he's not. So there is some of that, but I will say that Nola is someone that I like an awful lot. I've always liked him. He's a stabilizer. He gets you the consistent workload. Again, the whip should be there. The win totals never really gets up there for him, but there's no reason to think that it can't. I mean, when you're throwing 190 innings for a good team, you should be winning 15 games, right? Okay, so I like Aaron Nola. Freddy Peralta comes in at 17. Peralta is the anti-Nola in the sense that on a per inning basis, he might be slightly better, but he doesn't have the innings. And because he doesn't have the volume, it's tough to trust him. Now, the Brewers are, and I mentioned this again on the podcast. You can listen. It'll be posted today. I mentioned the fact that, the Brewers are in trouble. Devin Williams is out half the season. Brandon Woodruff is out for the season. Corbin Burns got traded. There's a lot of pressure on Freddy Peralta. And Freddy Peralta himself has never been Mr. 180 inning guy. And, the Brewers, honestly, to have any chance of, being a team that challenges for the playoffs, they need 180 innings from him. I don't know if he can do it. We'll see. Love the talent, but there are some concerns there. Not to mention that there have been times in his career where, he's lost his release point because of his mechanics. He's lost his release point and struggled for 5 to 8 starts in a row. So love Freddy Peralta, but there are some questions with him with an ADP inside the top 60 overall. Josh Hader at 16th. Again, I'm not taking a closer at that point. Just not doing it. I got no problem taking Josh Hader, but I'm out. Ryan Presley, by the way, a very good option now because everyone's out on Presley because of the addition of Hader. If you take Hader, no reason not to grab Presley at the last pick. And even if you don't have Hader, grabbing Presley with your last pick, he could still pull a Giovanni Gallegos and get 10 saves this year. Because remember, Hader throws 1 inning. He will not throw more than 1 inning. And if you look at his track record, he's 55, 60 innings. He's not one of these relievers throwing 70 innings. So there'll be opportunities for Presley to pick up some saves here and there. 15th is Logan Webb. Logan Webb is a younger version of Aaron Nola. Not quite the strikeout potential, of course, or the strikeout numbers. But if you throw 200 innings, you're going to get 170 strikeouts, right? And that's kind of where Logan Webb is. Ground ball, hurler, supremely stable. Love Logan Webb. Number 14, Edwin Diaz. Now we're getting into banana zone where we got, closers going in the top 50 picks overall. Guy that didn't even throw a pitch last year. And I've said this, and I've said this, and I've said this. You draft Edwin Diaz for the extra strikeouts, sure. If he gives me 30 extra strikeouts, then I don't know. Then Ryan Helsley. That's significant. I'm not going to say it's not. I just mentioned 26 strikeouts for Blake Snell. I get it. But you know how many seasons that Diaz has had 35 saves? Isn't it 2? I mean, let me pull this up. I think it's 2. Let me verify that. Yeah, it's 2. I mean, no, it's 1. I'm not even reading it right. It's 1. He's had 1 season of 35 saves. 1. So you say 57. The year that he struck out half the batters he faced, he had 32 saves. You're going to pay that premium to get a guy who didn't pitch last year to get an extra 30 strikeouts? 32 saves is a good number, but it's not a guy you should be drafting as the first reliever off the board, is it? I'll answer it. No. Be careful with Edwin Diaz. Tarek Skubal at 13th at pitcher. The helium is people are high. Okay. Tarek Skubal shows up. He's throwing 99, 100 miles an hour in camp. He had that dynamic second half last year. Tarek Skubal is being drafted as if he is a Cy Young winner. He's not. People are expecting him to vie for the award, clearly. Does he have the pedigree and talent to do it? Sure. Has he ever done it for a full season? No. I mean, and it's one thing to say I'm going to take Cole Reagans, whose ADP is 30 at the position. This is 13th. And I'm looking at the list here. There's no other closers ahead of Diaz. So Skubal's basically being drafted to be an SP1. And I get it. And I understand there's projection in that. But I also look at this guy. He's never thrown 150 innings at the big league level. He threw 117 innings in 2022. And he threw 80 last year. So the last 2 seasons, he hasn't even thrown 200 innings. And his ADP is 13th overall. Okay. Good luck with that. Number 12, Zack Gallen. Zack Gallen threw a ton of innings last year because the playoffs too. Zack Gallen's, I've never, the funny thing is I've never really been 100% in on Zack Gallen. I kind of am this year, which probably means it's going to go horribly wrong because that's how life works. But Zack Gallen is just really good. He's just, and I don't think there's anything with Zack Gallen that's wow. But when you throw 190 innings again, you're Aaron Nola as a baseline, and then you can be better than that if you tidy things up a little bit. And Gallen has. There are some splits with Zack Gallen home away stuff, so check into that. But he comes off the board at 12. Garrett Cole's 11 for the update for those people that didn't see it. Garrett Cole is not going to require surgery at this point in time. The most recent estimate is 10 to 12 weeks. And again, I talked about this a lot already. 10 to 12 weeks. I'll go into way more detail in the podcast about the whole Yankee situation. But 10 to 12 weeks, let's call it what it is. That's 2 to 3 months. I know a lot of people are still saying 1 to 2 months. They can't count because 10 to 12 weeks is longer than 2 months. Let's call it 2.5 months. I mean, that's 11 starts, 12 starts. I mean, where do you draft Garrett Cole? Even if he's Garrett Cole, if he's making 18 starts, 19 starts, where do you draft this guy? So as I said in the podcast, I'll let someone else worry about that. I'm not doing that. If you can get him at a great value, if he falls to 200th pick in the draft, okay, grab him, put him on your injured list. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Tyler Glasnow at 10. Tyler Glasnow is also being drafted, just like Tariq Skubal, to be a Cy Young winner. Tyler Glasnow can't throw 130 innings. He's been around forever. He's not done it. I mean, is Tyler Glasnow on a per inning basis as good as any pitcher in baseball? He's as dominant as any pitcher in baseball on a per inning basis, no question. But again, he's never thrown 130 innings at the big league. And I don't think he's thrown 125, actually. You're going to take that guy as an SP1? 125 innings. He's 30 years old. He's been in the league like 8 years. He's never thrown 125 innings in a season. Love the talent, but my goodness, I'm not paying that price to find that out. Yeesh. Kevin Gausman is number 9. Gausman is a rock of stability. There was that hiccup because of his shoulder, and it's like, and I'm looking at it right now, and here's an update that just came in. Luckily, I saw this. I opened up his player page. Because of the shoulder issue, according to Keegan Matheson, Gausman will not be ready for opening day. Now, there's no new news with Gausman that he's had a setback or something catastrophic's wrong or he's going to be on the injured list for 3 months or anything. There's none of that. But he's going to miss the start of the season. And, here's what manager John Schneider said. I'm going to quote here. Quote, "If that means 30 starts as opposed to 32 starts, we'll be pretty happy with that." Unquote. He's going to be pretty happy with him losing 2 starts. Does that mean he'd be happy if he lost 3 or 4? Does that mean he'd be okay if he lost 5 or 6? I want to give Gausman the benefit of the doubt because of the fact he's been so consistently durable and effective. I don't know. There's a lot of guys in that zone when you're talking the rankings that, 2 or 3 starts makes a difference. Pablo Lopez is number 8. Pablo Lopez was talented, but always had issues staying healthy. He seemingly cured that. And last season was a banger every year. Don't expect him to repeat all of that. That wouldn't be fair to him. But is he an SP1? I think he is. He's figured it out. He's got the pitch mix going. He's shown the ability to stay on the mound. Again, I don't know if that's a fallacy at this point because guys get hurt all the time. But I like Lopez. Everyone likes Lopez. He's coming in at 8. George Kirby at 7 is very aggressive. We're prognosticating his performance out to 190 innings at this price point. He famously said, he got in a kerfuffle with the media after he got pulled from a game because he gave up a run in the 7th inning, and he said, "I should only be throwing 6 innings," and then walked it back after, but it was not a good look. Basically saying his job is to throw 6 innings and then go to hell with all you. It's your job. I don't really want my ace saying that. I don't want my ace thinking that. I certainly don't want him saying that. Like, can you imagine for a second, Roger Clemens ever saying, "My job is to throw 6 innings"? Never. Can you imagine Greg Maddux saying that? Never. George Kirby said it, unfortunately. But anyway, beyond that, he's really talented. He doesn't walk anybody. Pitches in the best park in baseball. I love George Kirby. 7th overall? It's getting high. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, talk about another guy who's high at 6. He struggled a little bit in spring. I think I saw something on the interwebs. His batting average of balls in play this year in spring training is like 5'11". Come on, that's ridiculous. Yamamoto is expected by everyone to lead the Dodgers staff. He's expected by everyone to win the Rookie of the Year award. He's expected by everyone to be a fantasy star. I don't have him ranked that highly, but I agree in the general sentiment with Yamamoto. Luis Castillo at 5. Luis Castillo's just boom. Innings, strikeouts, ballpark, consistency, 5th overall. Zack Wheeler is number 4. Wheeler had a little bit of a physical hiccup himself here when he showed up, and that you got the long-term extension. Everything's fine with Zack Wheeler. Zack Wheeler had the concerns in the past about him being injury-prone. That's what the Giants worried about. He's dispelled that. He goes out every year and throws innings and gets strikeouts, pitching in a place he's comfortable. Got that huge contract extension. Zack Wheeler, stable. Again, I don't know if that's the right word to use with a pitcher, but he is stable, and he's stable at an elite level, and there's not many guys in that boat. Corbin Burnes at 3. We'll see what he does in Baltimore. Does he put pressure on himself? New team. Does he put pressure on himself to get that big contract? Does he struggle with a new environment? All these things are unknowns. There is a little bit of a pullback, much like Claas as a reliever. There's the pullback with Burnes and the strikeout rate, something to keep in mind. But I'm comfortable with, obviously, Burnes as your SP1. Shohei Ohtani comes in number 2 because the NFBC's got him as one player. Obviously, he's not pitching this year, so that's kind of a fallacious one. By the way, since I did that, 51 would have been Chris Bassett. My guy Chris Bassett, if we're looking at really the 50 pitchers because we take Ohtani out. Chris Bassett, Mr. Stability, even as he's in the mid-30s. And then finally, number 1, Spencer Strider. And while there was debate, Strider or Cole for some people, obviously now it's Strider going away. Strider's added a curveball. I think his strikeout rate in spring training is like 35 batters per 9 innings. I don't know what it is, but it's something absolutely ridiculous. He's been fantastic. 7th pick overall. Can't do it. I got him as the number 1 pitcher. I'd be behind making that decision to take him as the first pitcher. I'm not picking a pitcher in the top 10. Just not doing it. I don't think you should do it. We talk about it every day. Injuries to pitchers. It happens every single day. Spencer Strider, love him. And the addition of the curveball could be a difference maker for a guy who was already a difference maker. So I get the love. I'm just not doing it on draft day. So remember, that's the top 50 pitchers in the month of March in the NFBC, 140 plus drafts. In episode 98 that was done yesterday on Thursday, you'll get the top 50 hitter review. Later today is the podcast at fantasyguru.com. So check that out where we talk about all the news stories that we haven't been hitting on here the last couple of days. Let's talk about our team of the day to wrap things up here on the show. And we're up to the Seattle Mariners. And, Mitch Garver is a guy who years ago changed his swing up. And he basically decided, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to be. I'm not going to worry about trying to be someone else. I'm just going to do me. And ever since he's done that, he's been really good. The problem with Garver is he's had a really difficult time staying on the field. As you will see here in the graphic on the screen, though, he is slated to be the DH. They've obviously got Cal Raleigh to be the catcher with the Mariners. He's slated to be the DH. And if that keeps him healthy, he might really be something in terms of his fantasy value. You look at his numbers the last 2 years, compare those to Salvador Perez. If I just put those numbers next to each other, you'd probably choose the numbers of Garver and say they were Salvador Perez, and it's the other way around. And roughly the same amount of plate appearances. Their batting average 10 points apart. Garver has more home runs. He only has 6 less RBIs. He scored 9 more runs, and his OPS is 90 points higher. He's been better. He's been a better offensive player than Salvador Perez. Yeah. So if we can get 500 plate appearances out of Mitch Garver, and his body isn't worn down from catching, and he can stay healthy, Mitch Garver could go 250, 29 like he did right there. He can do that this season. So don't sleep on Mitch Garver, especially because of the fact he's going to be in that DH spot. Now, maybe heading into 2025, this is going to stink because maybe he doesn't catch 20 games. I don't know, right? If he's not, because they got Zavala to back up Raleigh. If he doesn't catch 20 games, it's a different conversation next year because then he's a DH-only guy and then he gets to be kind of boring. But this season, as an eligible catcher, gotta love that. Okay. I'm just reading the note. Yeah, Chaka, by the way, says he agrees. I can't pick a starting pitcher in the first 2 rounds in Roto. I agree with you, Chaka. Good call there. Smart. All right, so let's get back to it. The Mariners. Let's go to our questions about the Mariners as I remove the picture and then I open up my handy dandy little sports page tab here. I know this is really amazing. I'm so good at navigating all these things. The next pitcher player to talk about in our 5 guys with the Mariners is JP Crawford. He's likely to bat leadoff. Really took his offensive game to another level last year. He's always been a good defensive player, but his offensive game was really bad. Just, the quintessential middle infielder that can't hit. Last year, he hit 19 home runs and scored 94 runs because he was at the top of the order so much. And he had a big change in his game. While his strikeout rate went up, he had a 15% walk rate. He had a 380 on base percentage last year. Now, it's not fair to say 380 because I don't think that everything goes right this year like it did last year for him. But if it's 350, which again is a significant pullback from last year, and he's batting leadoff, which it seems like he will, in front of Julio Rodriguez, woo, you know what I mean? So JP Crawford, I struggle with getting excited about him in the fantasy space. I don't really think he's a 20 home run guy. I know he's not going to steal 10 bases, so he's, Even last year with all the success, he hit 266. So he's really kind of boring. The run scored category could be there for him, but he's kind of boring from a fantasy space. So if you're in a shallow league, he's someone that you think about picking up in season kind of thing. I don't think there's another step for him. And in fact, I would expect some pullback from last season. But he really did take his offense to another level last year. Batting leadoff does make a difference in the fantasy space. Jorge Polanco, maybe the new addition to play second base for the Mariners. Does he hit third? And, Jorge Polanco is another one of these guys that, he's a 250, 60 hitter. I think he's got way more power, obviously, than J.P. Crawford. Like, he's hit 30 home runs before, 20 home runs other season. He's had a hard time the last couple of years staying on the field as well, Polanco. But if you said to me Polanco hits 250, 25, 75. Okay. Is it 280? Is it 30 home runs? No. Is it 100 RBIs? Don't think so. Is it 10 steals? Again, probably not. So he's kind of boring, but don't forget about boring. If you're late in a draft in a mixed league and you need help up the middle, I haven't got Polanco on any of my teams because I end up going early for O'Neal Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz and Seager and all these guys. So I never have the need late, but late in the draft, Jorge Polanco is not the worst way you could go with the selection. On the pitching staff, a couple of storylines to talk about. Bryce Miller. Everyone's talking about Bryce Miller. Let's look at Bryce Miller's ADP. Everyone's talking about Bryce Miller. His ADP is 176 overall. It continues to go up. It was like 200 a month ago. It's now up to 176. He's all over the news. Like every time I look up on social media, he's breaking down his new grips and all that. He's adding pitches. He has worked very diligently in this offseason because there's and he's in the breakout pitcher of the year column. See where he ends up. Go check it out. He has a problem with release points. And he knows it, and he's working on it because what happens is his fastball's at one spot, his off-speed stuff's at another spot, and the batters are picking that up. So it's helping them read the pitch as it's coming out of his hand, which gives the batter the advantage, right? So he's worked very hard at getting things similar. He's still struggling a little bit with that, but he's working at it. He's adding pitches too. So Bryce Miller is arrow screaming upward. And I can totally get behind Bryce Miller at that price point versus a guy like Tariq Skubal. I'm not saying Miller's going to be better than Skubal. But when I can get Miller 125 picks later in a draft versus Skubal, I hope you catch my drift there. Then finally, the bullpen situation. I mentioned Andres Munoz and where is he going to be physically. This one's really interesting because right now, Gabe Spire and Ryan Stanek are basically the setup guys for the Mariners because Matt Brash had that issue with his arm and he's working his way back from it. And Gregory Santos has a strained lat. Brash and Santos could end up being very valuable. Not that Stanek and Spear couldn't either. They could get some saves here. But Brash showed last season, which I guess they're going to leave him in the bullpen. I was hoping they'd transition him back to starting, but I guess they're going to leave him in the bullpen. Brash has got the ability to dominate opponents. Santos has got the ability to dominate opponents. These guys come at you with 97, 8 miles an hour, velocity, movement, all this kind of stuff. Both those guys could easily save 15 games this year. Or one of them could save 15 games this year. In fact, one of them could save 30 games this year if Andres Munoz can't stay healthy. So they are put on a watch list guy. Even if you're not drafting Santos or Brash for your last pick, put them on a watch list. Because as soon as we get that first hiccup with Andres Munoz, provided Brash and Santos are healthy, on their way up, they shall be. In terms of speaking up, who's the player on the upswing for the Mariners? It's Mitch Garver. We just talked about him. It's pretty obvious why that is. The player on the down that I'd kind of avoid is Mitch Haniger, and you don't have to pay anything for Mitch Haniger. And I love Mitch Haniger. He's had a couple of really strong seasons. He had one great season a few years ago, back in 2021. But the last 2 years, he's just been beat up. And he seems to be kind of snake bit. I hate seeing that because it's stupid. But he kind of has been. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy and all that. So, again, at the cost of your last pick in the draft, fine. I'm just filling other issues at that point and not going with Mitch Haniger. So there it is, folks. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Follow me at @RayFlowers on SiriusXM on game day, Monday through Thursday at 8 to 10 Eastern with Justin Fensterman. Elite Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. with Jeff Manns. That's Eastern time. I'm on Wednesdays. I'm here on Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. On Monday, I think, again, for sure, but I think on Monday, we're going to review all those Twitter polls I've been running, kind of get a sense of where everyone's at in the world. We're probably going to be visiting with Rob Brink to talk MLB futures, so we'll get into that market a little bit. Next week, I've got Justin Fensterman coming in to talk hoops on Tuesday. On Wednesday, who was it on Wednesday? Shoot, let me check my notes real quick. Wednesday, I'm going to be solo. Thursday, it's going to be football talk. Dang it, I'm not sure. We've either got Armando, Tyler, or Russell coming on. They're each of them is going to come on once the next 3 weeks. So they're going to come on Thursday to talk some football with us here. And then on Friday, we're going to have Rich Miletto on to talk some NASCAR. So we'll have at least 3 guests. Or I guess that's 4 guests next week. I can't count. At least 4 guests next week. I think we'll talk about some Twitter stuff. We'll obviously continue to update everything in the world of baseball as we get you prepped for the season. We'll start to look ahead to the Soul games, by the way. Patio Joe going to write up those. So look for those at the website as well soon. So there it is, folks. Thanks for listening. Use that promo code FSD20 on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Get the all-in package. Get the baseball package. Get the football package. Get the March Madness package. Get them all and get your fantasy desires satiated. Ooh, look at that. Ray ending on a sexy note. Do that with us and be part of the crew over at fantasyguru.com, the elite mafia for life. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily for fantasyguru.com, powered by fantasyguru.com. All that good stuff. Just go to fantasyguru.com. Have a good weekend, folks.